What's going on? Will Freeman, RevolutionaryLifestyleDesign.com, talking to you today about the secret truth about insecurity. This is a game-changing mindset shift. The truth is, you're not insecure, you're just competitive. Let me say that again. You're not insecure, you're just competitive. Okay, insecurity is a narrative that comes originally from therapy. And oftentimes today, you see this in social media, or you see this with people that are trying to punish you to a degree, will label you as insecure over something. Okay, this is weaponized armchair psychology. And if you want to delve into philosophy, like I like to do, it always starts with the first premise. The premise is the assumption that insecurity exists. Insecurity is actually competition. If you're, quote, insecure about your looks or how you're stacking up financially next to the next guy, or if he's taller or whatever, what you're saying is you would just like to be higher status. You would like to have more money. You would like to maximize your looks. You would like to have the physique of that person so that you could get the kind of women that you want, or the kind of lifestyle that you want, or the kind of respect from people. And you'll see this in supermodels, for example. If you've known some very pretty women, you'll know that a lot of the most beautiful women are, quote, insecure about their looks, much more so than perhaps less attractive women. The reason is they're still competing very heavily on their looks, just like most people, guys and girls, around the ages of 13 and 14, really care about their looks. They care about their voice. They care about how attractive they are. And a woman who's been attractive her whole life has developed an entire identity around that. So she's competing very heavily into, her mid-20s, her late 20s. There's a TED Talk about a supermodel. She's talking about how insecure herself and her friends are. Well, it's because they're trying to compete to be against some of the most beautiful women in the world, where their defining criteria that gets them paid and gets them respect is their looks. So naturally, they're very insecure, quote, but actually it's just competition. Whereas, people who are in their 50s or 60s, their looks is much less of a, quote, insecurity, because they've just stopped competing in that particular area. Or if they are competing, they're competing maybe in a smaller scale about, trying to be the most attractive person in of their age bracket in their group of friends or whatever. So that's very important to understand. Just replace the idea of insecurity with competitive. So as a man, you're most likely trying to compete for women, or you're trying to stay competitive so you can keep your current girlfriend. You're trying to compete with other guys for status, and that's going to be based on your looks, your height, your age, your income brackets, the kind of job or business that you have, your personality, your ability to act with confidence, et cetera, et cetera. And so anytime you're thinking like, you're feeling bad about yourself, about the amount of money you have or the way you look, you're just trying to do better, okay? You're just trying to be more competitive. You just wish that, hey, I had the physique that this guy had. It's always in comparison to other people. Like if you were the last person on earth, probably wouldn't be worried too much about your physique, okay? Probably wouldn't be hitting the gym every day. Definitely wouldn't be worried about your money, because money wouldn't have a value at that point. You might not even look in the mirror for days at a time, okay? Because there's no one else that you're not going to be paying attention to fashion trends, okay? There's no one else to be dressing for. You're probably going to just wear comfortable clothes. You're not too worried about how you look, you're not worried about money at all. You're not worried about keeping the muscle on and going to the gym, because there's no one to compete with, okay? And if you don't think that you're competing, if you look carefully, a lot of the time it's not maybe someone in your direct reality, but it's the people within what I call the imaginary audience. Maybe you're still competing with guys from high school or guys from university, or it's competitive against, you're in sales and you're trying to compete with the other guys on the sales floor, and you're feeling insecure about your position there, or within the company hierarchy. And corporations make they're living off of creating that insecurity and competition. When I worked in sales, when you made a sale, you had to ring a fucking bell. Okay, and I got in trouble because I wasn't ringing the bell when I made a sale because I didn't want to make the guys around me feel bad. Oh, Will just closed another one, and it was just so transparent that it was like this Pavlov's dog, like basic human conditioning, and I just felt it was degrading to everybody involved. But they wanted to play on that. And that's why they had everybody's sales numbers up on the board, and the way they framed it was to celebrate your win. But really, when you're hitting that bell, the other guys are like, fuck, Will's pulling ahead. Is my job secure? Like, I've got to catch up. I could get fired, et cetera, et cetera. Playing on that competition. Or if it wasn't in that sense, it would be like, fuck Will, who does he think I should be number one here? He's got better leads, et cetera, et cetera. So that's what it is. Insecurity is competition. Okay, so that's the root cause, and that's the game-changing mindset shift. With that understanding, I want to give you a couple solutions on how to deal with your competitive nature. And the more of a natural go-getter you are, the more of a natural winner you are, and chances are you have more of those traits than the average person because you're sitting here at 6 minutes into this video watching a personal development video. You want to improve. The only reason you're in self-improvement is because you're competitive, right? You're not liking your position. Maybe you're doing well, but you still want to be able to do better. So you're naturally going to be a competitive person, okay? And if you're feeling really bad and really down on yourself and you're depressed, it's almost certainly because you're not winning. You're taking too many losses. That's a large part of what's going on when people are depressed. Almost always when someone's depressed, their life's not good. Not in all cases, but in a large part of cases, they've taken a bunch of losses. They've taken a breakup, a business failure, or they're not able to get the kind of partner that they want, or they're not able to get the income that they want, and they're having to work a job that they don't like, that they feel is degrading. They feel that they should be at a higher status, a higher level. They want their life to be different. And they're competing from it. And when you're in that true depression, that's where you're feeling like you're giving up, okay? Because you're not winning the game and you're taking losses, across the board. And too many losses in a row in too many areas, it's easy to slip into that depressed. So just recognize what's going on, okay? So number one solution is give whatever area that you're feeling insecure in, recognize that has value. A lot of guys will say like, I shouldn't care so much about my looks or my physique or whatever, like if that's a value to you. When I was doing my values list this year, I realized like the way that I look was a much bigger value than I think. It's probably like top 3. Give that value. Don't negate it and say it's superficial. Like give it value that, hey, you want to be clean cut, in shape, looking good. It's important. And the attention to females and the respect for men is important, and that's okay. So give it value, find a way to link that goal of looking good or whatever it is to pleasure, and then try harder. Recognize, hey, this is a real value to me, or making money is a real value to me. My middle-class parents might have told me like, money's the root of all evil, good Christian doesn't go after money. Rich people are greedy people. And so you're trying to negate that value. You're saying, hey, I really want money, but it doesn't have validity. But then you're beating yourself up about it because you're not winning in that area. Say that, hey, this is a top 3 value for me. And I'm allowing myself permission to go harder at that. And what can I do to succeed in that area? What can I do to turn that into a win? Okay, I got to get in the gym every day. I've got to learn the right routines. I've got to utilize progressive resistance. I've got to get my diet together. If you want to see how to do that, check over revolutionarylifestyledesign.com/body. That's my section on my site. Total minimalist style for getting your physique in shape. So recognize that it's a value. Recognize that you're not insecure, you're just competitive. And the way out of that is to do better and to get to a point where you don't have to play defense and justify your failures and try and do all these reframes. You can look in the mirror and be like, hey, I look good, or hey, I'm making 6 figures, or I'm making 250, or I'm making seven figures. Okay, and it's okay to compete because everyone's competing on some things. Number two, okay, and these are not all. These are different options. So another thing you can do is lower your standards. To continue the example with money, like, hey, maybe you're trying to be a billionaire and you're competing and comparing yourself to Warren Buffett and Ray Dalio. Okay, one of you guys might end up being a billionaire, but odds are not good. And if you're only saying like, hey, I have self-worth, I need to become a billionaire to have self-worth, it's going to be a long, hard road to that deal. Like maybe you lower your standards in that area. Maybe you start with the people around you and move up from there. Or you start with like, if you're in if you've got a personal brand like I do in your business, aim for guys who are doing a bit better than you, instead of trying to be Grant Cardone. I think having those guys as an example, like what's possible is great and on the long-term vision. But, when you're thinking for your next 3 or 4 years, man, lower the standards of the people that you're competing with, both in the imaginary audience and in the reality, okay? And I don't want to say like this point is contradicting point number one, which is try harder. I'm saying you might still be trying harder in your area, but also lowering the standards. Like, for example, in fitness, I'm not trying to compete with professional bodybuilders. They've got way better genetics than I do, and they're on a ton of gear that I wouldn't take. And just the toll on the body of carrying around that much weight, as cool as it would be to walk around just being 250 pounds of solid mass for a week, the ROI is not there, and it's not possible. And I would probably die trying to take all the drugs that they take to get there. Okay, so I can still compete to do better, but I'm not trying to compete for a pro bodybuilder deal. Okay, so lower the standards. That's option number two. Option number three, and again, these aren't all like direct steps. Like, you can quit. You might not be in the right vehicle, and you might not get around to where there's enough of a payoff in that vehicle. For example, Arnold Schwarzenegger, one of the most successful guys in 3 different disciplines, bodybuilding, acting, and then politics. In his teenage years, he was looking for what his vehicle was. And at first he thought it was swimming, but he realized he was too big, he was too bulky, he didn't have the speed, he wasn't tall enough, and he just wasn't built for it. So he quit swimming, tried bodybuilding, recognized, made some massive quick gains, recognized he had the genetics and the disposition for that, and shifted all his competition into that vehicle. Okay, and then at some point he'd done everything that he could within the sport of bodybuilding, and he shifted his competitive lens. He quit bodybuilding into acting. Same thing with acting. He felt like he'd had the success. Again, shifted his competitive edge in middle age into politics and succeeded there. And now he's back to acting again because, he did what he wanted to do in his political career. And I don't think he could run for president because he's not an American citizen. Otherwise, he probably would have. So you might not be in the right vehicle. For example, you might not have the right business. You're trying to redesign the wheel like I did in a tech startup, in a product-based business, when maybe you should be in a service-based business. Or maybe you're like a client of mine who's a multimillionaire, and he was in a business doing $75 million a year in revenue, but he had a bad partner, and there were some problems with the business, some structural problems. And he hopped out of that and into a much better vehicle and is happier, is going to make more money, he's got a huge potential for an exit. And so quitting that particular vehicle was the right thing to do, so that it allowed you to move into another vehicle where you can get more wins, you can be more competitive, you can scale up faster, and most importantly, you have inspiration. You actually like what you're doing. Like, if you don't like the vehicle that you're in, or you don't like the business that you're in, and you can't find ways to link pleasure to that, like getting high off making deals, like maybe you don't like selling, you're not too passionate about real estate, but you can link it to like the excitement of closing deals. But if you can't do that, then you might need to quit that vehicle and find a better vehicle. Okay, number 4 is multiple levels of self-esteem. Okay, So I'll give you a few examples. You can use your looks, your style, your intelligence, your physique, the amount of money you make, success in your business, um, how close you are following your spiritual discipline, how much you're able to help people, being a good son, being a good boyfriend, being a good friend, all these different areas. So if you're taking losses in your business or whatever, and maybe you just tapped out that day, you couldn't get the project done. Well, you go hit the gym and try and get some wins there. Try and get some extra reps, or you're struggling in a few areas. Go help people, right? Go find somebody to help. Go give some money away. Go help a friend or whatever, so that you can get a win in the area of self-worth and self-esteem. Or go help your mom, so you can get a win in self-esteem and helping someone, and feeling like, hey, I took some losses today, but I at least moved forward in being a good son or being a good friend or whatever it is, so that at least you can finish the day with a couple wins where you move forward, and because it is competition to a degree, the way that you see yourself. Even as crazy as it sounds, like in being a good son or something, right? Like, it doesn't sound like that would be competitive, but what does good son mean? Good son is comparison to someone who's a bad son, right? A bad son or a bad friend would do these things. So even there is a degree of competition. So when you at least move forward in that, you reverberate, you get more of a sense of pride and a sense of self-esteem and a sense of wins. Okay, if you are sort of the type of intellectual guy, and it kind of rubs you the wrong way to hear the way that I've structured things is the game of life, and the game of getting wins, I would just ask you to try it for a week and start thinking about where you can get your wins in. It totally changes your life, man. And just admitting to yourself that, hey, maybe I'm not an intellectual after all. I'm intelligent, but I'm actually very competitive. Because if you're watching it this far, if you made it through 17 minutes, this is probably hitting home to a degree. You are a competitive person. You are trying to win. Own that, and try and look for where you're getting wins. If you look at Grant Cardone and those guys, he's doing these meetings like every 3 hours, talking about where are we getting wins, where are we getting wins. If a guy's falling off in sales, it's like, put him on an easier target so he can get some wins and some momentum behind him. And this is true of anything. You could be playing chess in or a sport. If you're taking loss after loss, you're losing the passion for that sport, or that game or whatever. So you need to find where you can get some wins, or maybe you need to select some easier opponents, get some wins, get your confidence back, and just look through life as a game where you're trying to win, with the end goal being happiness. He who has the most joy wins. Okay? And don't let people try and shame you about insecurity or whatever. Like, recognize behind every behavior is an intention. Like, if someone's pointing to you and saying you're insecure, whether they're saying it on your social media or whether they're saying it to your face, they are trying to punish you. They're attempting to hurt you, right? If someone actually cared about you, they would pull you to the side and say, hey man, I saw, you might have been struggling with something. Here's something that worked for me when I was going through a similar situation. Okay? Like, actual constructive solutions. When someone's pointing you out as insecure, they are trying to shame you to catch a win off of you, to correct your behavior. And I'll give you an example. I've been coaching people for 2 years now. I've never told someone, dude, you're insecure, you should stop acting insecure. I go in and I give whatever they're feeling validity, and then we try and look at a constructive way to bring them back to happiness and get them some wins in that particular area. Because I recognize that they're not insecure, they're just competing in that area and they're not winning. Okay, and then we're looking for the solution of, it's either going harder and with more constructive solutions about how to get those wins, whether it's in business or fitness, and you can see all that on my site, or lowering the standards, quitting that, finding another vehicle, or focusing on the daily wins for that day, doubling down on other areas of self-esteem to go get that win. Okay, so speaking of, I'm off to the gym. Gonna try and catch me a win today. But I hope you found this message useful. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments section. If you're interested in more of this material, please make sure you subscribe and hit the notifications bell on YouTube. And if you want some personal, customized help with this, please check out my peak performance coaching page at revolutionarylifestyledesign.com/coaching. If you're a good fit, I would love to help you. Otherwise, much love to you. Wish you all the best in your personal development journey.